Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cultured Pull List. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about The Nice House by the Lake, Volume 1. It's a self contained horror thriller mystery story published by DC Black Label. It's very interesting. Think you're all going to enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is the Cultured Pull List, and we are your hosts, Mike and Luke from Casual Experts. And this week, we're covering a DC Black Label horror story, horror book. And even though it's DC, it's not really connected to anything else DC. It's standalone. And as far as I could tell, it doesn't have anything. It's not part of the main like DC continuity. But yeah, it was very interesting. So let's just get right into the book here. The Nice House by the Lake, Volume 1. Written by James Tynion IV, with art by Alvaro Martinez Bueno, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by AndWorld Design. And this book was released just last year in 2022. So the story begins with a post-apocalyptic look at our main character for this issue, Ryan. And all of these issues open with one of the characters kind of in a post-apocalyptic looking outfit and setting. It's not really clear in this book whether this is an actual glimpse at the future or if this is some sort of mind palace type setting. But in all of these openings, the characters relay basically their point of view and how they met Walter, their friend in common. Now, Ryan met Walter in a bar in New York City. She's the newest to the group that you will see, the newest friend of Walter. And when Ryan and Walter first met, Walter first asked her how she thought that the world would end. And then this led to a deep conversation that led to a friendship. Now we cut to pretty much present day, where we see Ryan gets an invite, kind of a form letter invite from Walter to his house on the lake in Wisconsin. He's invited a lot of friends there, basically three different friends groups: friends from high school, friends from college, and friends that he met in New York after college. So Ryan shows up at the house and she's greeted by Nora. And these next few pages pretty much just introduce the cast of characters. They all have a designation, a vocation designation, and a symbol that goes along with them that's actually on their rooms, on the door to their rooms at the house. So there's Ryan, she's an artist. There's Nora, she's a writer. She is trans, so she was born Norman, and she met Walter in high school. Then there's David. He's the comedian. Molly, the accountant, and she's the only one who is married or in a relationship without a partner that was invited. So Molly was invited, but her husband was not. Then there's Veronica. She's a scientist and Nora's ex. There's Sam, the reporter. There's Naya, the doctor. There's Rick, the pianist. And then there's Reg, who is also an artist, but Reg was not invited. And there are several characters that bring up Reg and wonder why he's not there. There's also Naya, the doctor. She's married to Rick. And there is Arturo, the acupuncturist, and he is married to Sam. And then there's Sarah, the consultant, part of the college friend group. So after everyone arrives at the house and starts exploring and seeing how great it is, you can see how big it is in this picture. And there's apparently like a whole movie theater, and just it's a crazy nice house. But then, after everyone starts settling in, Walter shows up with a bunch of groceries and fun stuff, and he welcomes them to the house and puts some steaks on the grill. So that night, everyone hangs out at the pool, while Ryan is also there, but she's on her phone, and she starts seeing a bunch of social media posts basically showing the end of the world, seeing just a bunch of people dying, and it seems like a coordinated attack on all of the world's major cities. People's skin is melting off, and it's just horrible. People are dying, and Ryan is understandably freaked out, and she tells the rest of the group. They turn on the TV and see an emergency broadcast, and they realize they're basically witnessing the end of the world. And Walter tells them that he knows what's going on, and he brought them there on purpose to save them so that they wouldn't be caught up in whatever is going on. Everyone is completely shocked by this, but Nora picks up a poker from the fireplace and attacks Walter, and he reveals himself to not be quite human, as his face does this weird thing and ends up hurting Nora's hand in the process. So the next issue is opened by Rick the pianist, and we see that he was Walter's roommate in college, and Walter makes some mention about how he doesn't have much time left, and Rick thinks he means college, but it seems at this point that he was referring to something else. We then see that everything everyone is saying is being recorded in some transcript, though we're not sure who's looking at the transcript. But Rick takes a shower, and as soon as he gets out of the shower, he's confronted by Walter, who says that he's going to need their help, or need Rick's help. So the rest of the group is coping in different ways to the idea that the world is coming to an end. Molly's not handling it well because of her husband. Everyone's kind of handling it. Some people are trying to carry on like normal, but they all start exploring. And Nora and I believe Sarah, it's kind of hard to keep a lot of these characters straight, but they start exploring by themselves, and they come across a library. In the library, behind some books, there is a key and a keyhole that opens a door to a room. Meanwhile, the rest of the group finds a statue out in the front of the house, and they discover when they touch the statue, it shows them the state of their home. It's all just horror and death. We also see the secret room that Nora and Sarah find, and it turns out that it's basically an armory with a bunch of C4 and weapons. Rick then talks to his wife Naya and basically tells her that they need to keep everyone calm and not let anyone freak out and be the voices of reason, basically. But we see that he sees Walter, and it seems like he's doing Walter's bidding. It's now day 4. Sam, being a reporter, is unable to just sit back and watch as all these things are happening, so he starts exploring the island himself, and he finds that the entire property is surrounded by an invisible force field, and he's able to map it out and realize it's a hexagon, not knowing that Walter's watching him this whole time. And over the next several days, he starts exploring the entire property and mapping everything out, drawing it in his notebooks, and he doesn't tell his partner about it. Really, he just says he's going off on his own. And he eventually finds a bunch of weird statues and a weird, futuristic, modern-looking other house on the property. And after spending quite a bit of time trying to figure out what the statues in the new house mean and how to get inside the house, he finally gives up and leaves and says he's not playing Walter's game. But then we get a glimpse inside the house, and we see that somebody is trapped inside, and Walter is not letting them leave the house. Now, the next book opens with David explaining that over the next several days, some food and other supplies get delivered to the house. They're assuming it's Walter, but they never see who does it. But the first day, a whole notepad was left, and they figured out that they could make requests for specific things they wanted, and that they could make private requests. Now, Molly keeps trying to make private requests, but hers are never fulfilled. And after a few days, David takes it upon himself to deliver everyone's orders to them, but Molly never gets anything. So he talks to Molly about it, and she reveals what she keeps requesting. She shows him the paper, and at first she keeps asking for her husband, but when that doesn't work, she keeps asking for different things that she can kill herself with, eventually just requesting a straight razor every single day. So David kind of takes pity on her and requests a straight razor for himself. And so when that's delivered, he takes it to Molly, but he also talks to Molly and convinces her not to kill herself. But he also reveals something else, which he then goes and reveals to the rest of the group while they're having dinner, that they're unable to kill themselves or really harm themselves. They somehow have a regenerative factor that heals them from any wounds. Then we have a flashback showing when Veronica was first getting to know Walter, and they have a private conversation, and he actually reveals his true self to her because he thinks that she's one of the most intelligent people he knows, but he still makes her forget afterwards, and that's when we first discover that he has the power to erase people's memories. We then cut back to the aftermath of the revelation that they can't kill themselves or really be harmed at all, that they'll just heal. And the group decides to try and figure out what exactly the rules of everything are. They figure that Walter's probably told them everything they need to know, albeit cryptically, so they're going to comb through everything that he's told them. Meanwhile, Rick decides to take a walk by himself, and Ryan follows him and sees that he is communing with Walter, or at least trying to, and trying to get his advice to figure out what he needs to do. Sarah then reveals to the rest of the group the next morning that she found a bunch of weapons, and Sam reveals that he found that other house and all of the symbols, all the weird statues out in front of it. So they decide to go see this house. So they all hop in a boat and head to the house after a little bit of arguing that they didn't reveal their secrets at the beginning. So they all show up and they try to use the explosives and the guns to get inside the house, but the house seems to be pretty much invulnerable. So after messing with the statues for a while, Ryan figures out that each of the statues has their corresponding symbols on them. And they figure out that if they all press the symbol that corresponds to them, a door to the inside of the other house opens up. And as soon as that happens, Reg steps out. Apparently, he's been in there the whole time. And he invites everyone inside and shows them that there's a whole other house in there. He also reveals that when he was younger and first was friends with Walter, Walter invited him and Nora, then Norm, over and revealed himself to them. He made Nora forget, but he let Reg remember, and apparently Reg has been helping Walter this whole time to arrange this. Then, as soon as Reg finishes explaining himself, Walter steps out, and Nora starts screaming at him, but Walter, albeit half-heartedly, makes them forget. And so the next morning, Ryan opens her eyes, Red is doing his painting, everything seems like it's gone back to normal, at least normal from the last few days. They're still trying to explore the property. They don't remember anything about how to get into that other house or anything, and they act like Reg has been in there the whole time. And that is the cliffhanger ending that this book leaves us on. Okay, so the nice house on the lake. What'd you think of this, Luke?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was good. It was yeah, a really interesting setup, and I feel like the art is really good. Who's the artist on this? Alvaro Martinez Bueno,
Mm-hmm.
I think is what his name is.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with any of his other work,
No, me
but the
neither.
artwork in this was really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it fit the story and the tone really well. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed the first six issues. I feel like I don't know, like I know there's a second volume which I haven't read yet, and we haven't, we only covered the first six issues this episode.
Yeah.
But I found the first like half was super intriguing, and like I just kept
Mhm.
wanting to read more and like what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it got less interesting, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
like the no, it's not that it got less interesting. I just feel like it felt like stuff almost stopped happening for a little bit in the middle of these issues,
Yeah.
and then it picked up
Yeah.
again once Reggie, like once they opened the other house, the weird house, and Reggie showed
Mm.
up, and then like we kind of got more information about what's going on. But I really liked the cosmic horror elements to this.
Yeah.
um and just I found the character of Walter really interesting because
Mhm.
like he's not like a typical like weird alien character. Like he was made to be kind of human, so he feels like a very conflicted and contradictory character, but like in
Yeah.
an interesting way. At least so
Yeah,
far.
yeah, he's, I don't know if sympathetic's the right word, but he
Yeah.
you as a reader, you, like, understand what he's coming from. I mean, like, he's obviously, like, what he's
Mhm.
doing is not good, but it's like I
Yeah.
can kinda see, like, why what his motivation is, I guess.
Right, and it doesn't seem like it's entirely like, it doesn't really seem like it's up to him necessarily. Um
Right, right.
and also what I found interesting was towards the end there was that interesting twist that it like the world probably hadn't been destroyed yet, and that
Mhm.
this was just kind of like a trial run to see if it would work. But Reggie revealed some like previous conversations where Walter revealed his plans, and he said that he was tasked with finding like the most exceptional like humans
Yeah,
basically. And at first I was like, okay, I mean, like these people are cool, but really I don't think they're the most like, exceptional people in the whole planet. But then like he kind of went on to say, and you kind of realize like it's not that they're not like they're losers or anything, but they're all his friends, and like he chose
yeah.
them because he cares about them. And I
Mhm.
thought that was an interesting aspect where like even though he's doing like messed up things, he isn't like totally cold and calculating. He seems like he does have feelings, and he does really care about
Right.
all the people there. So I thought that was
Mhm.
really interesting, and the dynamic between all the characters was. I feel like there are like maybe too many characters. I kind of got um a little lost with who's who. Like I could
Yeah,
probably.
especially with the art style was it's kinda hard to tell the
Yes.
difference sometimes.
Yes, I totally agree. There's a few characters that all look the same, and it was hard to
Mhm.
keep them straight. There was maybe like four or five that I was like solid on who they were and everything.
Right, right.
But yeah, there were like a few interesting characters, and it seemed like that Rick guy was almost like kind of talking to Walter somehow. And like
Mm.
I did like that each character was reacting to what was going on in a different way.
Yeah.
Like some people were like a little more chill with it or trying to keep everybody calm, and some people like Sam were like trying to figure everything out and couldn't just like stay still.
Mhm.
And I kind of liked the whole thing where I mean it's just like a really nice place, to hang out. So, and
Right,
I
right, yeah.
found it really interesting that they could pretty much order anything they wanted, and
Mm.
it would just
Yeah.
show up, and also the fact that like they couldn't die. So like when they discovered that like that one guy, I forget his name, but he like started cutting himself with that straight razor and everything, but like he just kind of
Right.
like kept healing. I found that kind of interesting. So
Yeah, it's this,
yeah.
on paper, it's like this perfect place, but then
Hmm.
very quickly, it kind of all falls apart. Like, you
Yeah.
can have everything you want, you can't die, but then, like, there's a lot of ramifications to that.
Well, yeah, and it is kind of an interesting experiment. Can
Mhm.
people, even basically having anything they want and live in almost like a mini utopia, can
Right.
they live and accept like everything that they've ever known is gone now? Like
Right, exactly.
is that enough for them to get over that? And it seems like the answer is no.
Right.
So you read the second half.
I did.
How does that like compare? Like I definitely plan on reading it because I want to see it, and
Mhm.
let us know in the comments if you want us to cover volume two. I didn't know going into this that it was two volumes. I thought it was just one. So yeah, but so how does the second one compare?
Yeah, I think that the first 6 issues are definitely the strongest,
Mm-hmm.
but it kinda goes downhill towards the end. I wouldn't say it's bad, but
Mm-hmm.
it like, it doesn't really, um expand upon it that much, the concept, like, for,
Oh.
like, issue 7, 8, and 9 are kind of, like, the same thing, and it doesn't
Oh,
really I
okay.
mean, it's still some interesting ideas, and it sort of plays around with, like, memory and stuff like that, um, but I didn't really care for the ending. It very much
Mm,
sets up a sequel, which I don't think was entirely necessary, but we'll see.
sure.
Maybe the sequel's really good. I don't know.
Right, especially considering it's a very self-contained story. I
Right.
feel like they could have just ended it, but
Yeah.
I obviously haven't read it yet. So does it even like give very many more answers than we've already gotten in the first half?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think that
Okay.
it does answer a lot of like because there are parts where like Walter kind of goes behind the scenes and he's like explaining like how this whole place works.
Okay.
And so yeah, there are some answers, yeah.
Okay, well yeah, then I definitely want to read it cuz
Mhm.
like it does feel very incomplete only reading like the first half, so.
Right, right.
But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say about it?
Yeah, it's a good story, a good concept. I'd really like to see it like adapted into like a TV show or something like that. I think that'd
Yeah,
be cool.
that would be very cool. Yeah, I was kind of reading it feeling like this kind of feels like, like it could be a mini series or something.
Right,
Um
right.
and knowing it's DC, like I'm sure Warner Brothers or, whatever could probably adapt it pretty. I mean, they just
Yeah, for
recently
sure.
adapted like that DMZ comic, which I'd like never freaking heard of until they made a Max series out of it. So, I mean, if they'll make a
Oh,
series off of that, then
okay.
I would hope they would do something with this at some point. To wrap things up, as usual, we're going to do our cultured picks. My pick this week is technically a story arc. It's not a single issue, but it's uh like issues 20 through 25 of the early 2000s Daredevil run. It's this story, yeah, from like 2000 to 2002, or sorry, 2000 2001, and it's
Mhm.
called, I think the arc is called Playing to the Camera, but it's this interesting arc where Daredevil is being sued by this rich guy for property damage because he claims that Daredevil like crashed through the roof of his greenhouse to fight some ninjas or something. But
Mm,
Daredevil is never actually there, but it does really bring up the issue of collateral damage and property damage with superheroes, and that's kind of like the whole theme of it is kind of that whole thing, as well as um, Daredevil, because Matt Murdock ends up representing the guy suing Daredevil, and it's just like
mm,
really complex and complicated. And there's this fun part where a Spider-Man shows up, like dressed as Daredevil. Like nobody knows that it's Spider-Man, but he shows up to court as Daredevil because Matt Murdock has to be there as Matt Murdock, and it's pretty fun. And in the end, it turns out that there was like this villain brainwashing people and stuff. And yeah, it was just a pretty cool arc. I picked up, I think, only two of the issues of this arc at Comic Con a few months ago, and then I ended up
mhm.
tracking the others down because I kind of wanted to know how it ended. But
Right.
yeah, it was pretty fun. If you're able to find this anywhere, I would definitely recommend reading it. Playing to the Camera, issues, yeah, 20 through 25 of the 2001 Daredevil run. But yeah, what
Yeah.
do you have this week?
My pick this week, I believe it's called the Supergirl Special Number 1, and
Okay.
it It came out this I think it came out like today, yesterday or today. It's a brand new comic. It's it's really interesting because it basically follows Kara Danvers, Supergirl,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very I don't know how to describe it, but it's like it basically the story is kind of her wrestling with the idea of like, well, what's it like to being a superhero in like this world full of superheroes? And so it's very
Cool.
like understated and like toned back, and it's like a really
Sure.
just like a small story where she's just sort of like grappling with the idea of that. And I think it's really cool. And it
Hmm.
doesn't really like set up anything or anything like that. It doesn't
Yeah.
like spin off into anything.
It's
It's just
just
kind of
kind of
this
a
cool
one
little
shot.
one little thing that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's yeah. They've been doing a lot of stuff with like the super family the last
Yeah.
year, which I've enjoyed. What do you think of Supergirl's new suit? Because they
I
kind
kind of
of
like it.
revamped. Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of like it.
I kind of do too. I think the only thing is I wish it had like a cape. I feel like
Mm,
I guess I'm just so used to Supergirl having a cape.
right.
But yeah, I do like it. It's a cool like modern design. I really like Superboy's new suit that he got
Yeah.
at the end of his newest like his mini series
Mhm,
cuz it kind of fits in with the rest of the super family's like new suits, but
mhm,
it still kind of has that leather jackety look, which I
right.
think is pretty cool. But yeah, well, that is our show for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week. We are going to be covering the first few issues of Invincible, just in time for the new season premiering. So definitely stay tuned for that. This has been TCN Presents The Cultured Pull List. If you would like to support us on Patreon to help us bring you more content, check us out at patreon.com/theculturednerd and look for our show specific tier if you would like to support our show specifically. I have been your host, Michael Malillo. My co-host has been Luke S. Our logo was designed by Jose Navarro, and our intro was designed by me. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe, that really helps a lot. Scan the QR code on the bottom left to check out The Cultured Nerd on social media. And scan the QR code on the bottom right to check out me and Luke's other brand, Casual Experts, on social media, YouTube, and our other podcast. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.